And good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for jumping on for another ATS University session. If this is your first time here, my name is Zach. I manage our account management and market development team at ATS. Part of that team is with me today, Miss Natalia, who has focused on the architectural field, including becoming what I call my code expert whenever we have a challenging question come up or any sort of code related discussion on barrier free. We always circle back to Natalia. So thanks for joining us today, Nat.
Yeah, thanks, Zach.
But yeah, so as always, we do have everyone muted upon entry. We are recording this session so that we can host it onto our ATS University section of the website. Later on in the presentation, if we have a little time, I will try to show in what I'm sure will be a very quick demo of how you can find the previously recorded sessions of our ATS University on the ATS website. We'll try to show you how you can utilize templates to round out a rec facility or locker room type application. But I know we have a lot to cover today. There's a lot of detail that goes in to these locker rooms, and anytime we're talking code related subjects. So we'll try to get it through it as fast as possible and leave time for a demo, but we'll be cognizant of everyone's time and try to end as close to on time as we can as well. So yeah, I guess without any further ado, Nat, I'll pass over to you to introduce our topic for the day.
Yeah, sure. Thanks. So yeah, today we're going to be talking about the barrier-free InDesign. So understand better the accessibility in a locker room. Thank you all who's joining us today. It is always a pleasure to have you here and also to talk about accessibility overall. Zach really knows how passionate I am about it. So hopefully you get some more insights after today. So this is a CU presentation. You will all, passing out. So everyone that's signing for today, we received the credits for the CU. It is an AIA accredited presentation. And we will cover basically everything related to ADA and also when it's possible, the ANC standards as well. So due to the nature of this, the content here, we have a great deal of language and numbers on some of the later slides that I'm going to show you. So as Zach mentioned, we will do our best to, ensure the presentation stays dynamic and interesting, regardless. But we feel there is added value with this approach. If you'd like to, following the completion of the presentation, you can receive a version of the presentation. So as you can, in the future, you can use as a reference. And as I mentioned, please note that this will be focused more on the ADA and ANC, sorry. So mainly the guidelines for our American attendees, but we will be mentioning some of our Canadian requirements when possible.
Yeah, listen, we do a lot of various types of sessions for our ATS University. We do some of the fun ones with when we're talking our templates and our application specific things where we can really get into the particular product recommendations, dive a little bit deeper. But when these are accredited CEUs, we have to follow a bit of a stricter format. So we'll be covering that today. And as you mentioned, this is a US focused topic, but I'm going to be chiming in along the way to try to break things up and also to cover and highlight some of our more Canadian specific codes and standards as well. So we'll try to do a little bit of both.
Yeah, so our learning objectives for today, we will try to understand the difference between ADA and ANC, designing a complete barrier-free environment, what we need to design as a complete barrier-free environment. We'll understand path of travel, designing for reach intent, some other atmospheric considerations, and also durability and resistance considerations when regarding the materials that you are choosing. So to start, to address some of the code requirements in the locker room, Before we want to ask you, can you tell us, what is wrong with this design? You can use the chat just to, with the knowledge that you already have, what can you say that is wrong with this locker room design? Do you think the benches are, properly located, or, the shower install dimensions, grab bars?
We're getting a couple of comments coming in. A couple of people focusing in on the seat in the shower stall, as you mentioned, saying it's hard to measure, but likely the path of travel, like the benches, might be mislocated. So yeah, a couple of people already thinking clearly, looking forward to see what they learn along the way.
Yeah, we'll address some of these requirements, but just to start, we can see that this is obviously a wrong design for a locker room. So regarding codes, let's talk a little bit about codes. So the American with Disabilities Act, also known as ADA, is part of the federal civil rights, whereas the reference standards such as the ANC 117.1 is considered a state and local building code. So depending on your jurisdiction, your country, state, whatever, you as a design may be required to either use ANC or ADA. So please make sure to review this requirement prior to design. So these codes can differ in certain instances.
And then that is pretty similar across the border up in Canada as well. We have our national building code and standards, and then various provinces do have different parts of that they've adopted. Most of the provinces are moving towards a unification of those standards. The Alberta code update just recently, the BC code update going through, and then I believe Ontario looking to take steps towards unification as well. So we're starting to align more as a national standard up here across the border.
Yeah, just some ADA context. So ADA context, ADA guidelines and selections, they give you recommendations from mirrors to showers, benches, everything in the locker room. And the last update of the ADA code was in 2010. And of course, depending on your region, you may be required to defer to a stricter, more current ANC code. A bit of context for ANC. So the ANC 117.1 refers to the accessible and usable buildings and facilities. Its last revision was in 2017, and this is a more current standard with some minor but important differences from when you compare to the ADA standards. And just as you notice here, everything will be highlighted in green throughout the presentation. So you will see any time we have some more specific requirement that would be on ANC. And just to understand the need, why we need to, design for always taking in account the accessibility. So according to figures released by the Census Bureau, 18.7% or almost 60 million Americans require barrier-free assistance. And also 12.7% have a severe disability. So these standards, they always take into account these numbers and ensures that they have the ability to navigate and manipulate the environment around them. So we have to address reach, path of travel, and more. I think you as a design are, you're already doing a great job. So regardless, we should always be looking what to do above and beyond to not only comply with the code, but always try to include all needs. So it can be not only a person, you know, in a wheelchair, but also you can think of a person with stability or balance issues, children and people who are, you know, short stature or tall, people who are large, heavy. It can be one of us, you know, when we have some temporary injury and, you know, such a, I don't know, we have been through a surgery or have broken bones, and we also need to address to include these people. Of course, elderly people and individuals who may need assistance. So anyone who, you know, needs a caregiver, you have to take into account the space for this. Parents with their children, you know, in strollers or, you know, when have to change your baby. And of course, users of wheelchair or any other, I don't know, mobility equipment such as scooters, crutches, canes, walkers, anything. So this is so important to address our design in a locker room. So we'll talk more about what to do to address this problem. So let's see what the code says about the changing room and a locker room. So the space and the path of travel, it includes a continuous, unobstructed way, you know, of passage by means of which the outer area may be approached, entered, and exited, and which connects the design area with an exterior approach. So it can include sidewalks, streets, anything that connects with the entrance to the facility and other parts of the facility. What ADA states about it, you know, the minimum space should be a diameter of 60 inches. And the turning space should be a T-shaped space with 60 inches square minimum, with arms and base 36 inches wide. And also you have some more specific dimensions to each turning part of the T. On the other hand, A and C requires a slight longer minimum diameter of 67 inches of, you know, clear turning space. And you may choose one of the 3 turning approaches shown here for your, you know, turning space.
And just to highlight on using our Ontario building code here, they require a turning space of 1,700 millimeters diameter as your minimum for barrier-free. And every barrier-free water closet stall or enclosure in a washroom shall have a clear turning space within the stall and in front of the stall of 1,500 millimeters.
Yeah, so slight difference from each code, but always good to know. So right now that your user entered the space, other considerations are required to ensure the usability throughout the entire experience of the user in the locker room. So with this in mind, ADA and C outlines everything that you should know about, you know, lockers, benches, locks, showers, grab bars, lavatories, accessories, and toilets and urinals. And we're going to go over each of these categories. So we're going to start with showers. So ADA basically requires the use of one of these 3 shower types. So we have the transfer shower, which is basically designed when the user can stand to transfer to the shower seat and doesn't need to go in with the wheelchair or, you know, a caregiver. The rolling shower is the case when the shower needs to accommodate the wheelchair or a caregiver to be, you know, inside the stall the whole time. And lastly, we have the alternate rolling shower, which is pretty much similar to the regular rolling shower, but it differs for, you know, containing 4 walls instead of only 3. And with the alternate rolling shower, a 36-inch wide minimum entry is required at one end of the long side of the compartment. So the most common type is the transfer shower compartment. It must be 36 by 36 inches minimum, with a fixed or folding shower seat mounted on the opposite side wall of the shower and controls. With this dimension, we ensure the user reaches all controls without any help. And plus the thresholds are allowed, but should not be higher than a ½ inch. More about the transfer shower, the important thing to note is the approach clearance of 48 inches wide by 36 deep, measured from the control wall. The shower seat should not be placed more than 3 inches from the shower entry, and the horizontal grab bar should be provided across the control wall. The ANC requires an extra 18 inches minimum vertical grab bar on the control wall. For the rolling shower compartments, so as I explained before, this is a type that should accommodate either the user with the wheelchair or a caregiver, and the threshold is allowed but not more than ½ inch as well. Slightly larger than the transfer type shower, the shower compartment here should be a minimum of 60 inches by 30 inches, as 60 inches wide entry, and the approach clearance of 60 inches wide by 30 inches deep. ADA recommends the shower seats, but only the ANC requires to have the shower seat stalled, and that it should be located on the side wall no more than 3 millimeters from the front entry. When the compartment has a shower seat, the back wall grab bar must extend along the wall with its ending less than 6 inches from the sidewall opposite to the seat, and the sidewall grab bar must extend through the length of the wall, ending less than 6 inches from the back wall. And the difference for, when you don't have a seat in your compartment is that the back grab bar should terminate less than 6 inches from each side wall. And if you are designing a place that requires ANC, as I mentioned before, you have to add an extra 18 inches vertical grab bar on the opposite wall of the shower seat. The alternate rolling showers, have greater flexibility due to its larger space. You can have either a 0 or a threshold not higher than ½ inch. And the compartment must be 60 inches wide by 36 inches deep, with a minimum approach entry of 36 inches wide. And again, same case, if ANC is required, the shower seat should be mounted no more than 3 inches from the front entry.
Now that's kind of our first big heavy section. And we've already got a couple of people asking whether or not there's like a summary or anything like that. So I'll mention it again. We will certainly be sending out the copy of the presentation so that you can reference back to this as a bit more detailed reference. We do also have design guides for various codes across Canada, and the ADA ANSI design guide that's available on our spec tool. If you go to the Learning Hub, and I'll show you how you can access that later on. And you can download a copy of the design guide for yourself. We are in the process of updating that for the regions in Canada that are now adopting the NBC. And circling back to Canada on the side, one thing I'll mention here, and again, you can get a more detailed presentation specific for the Canadian market if you would like Natalia to give a presentation specific to your firm in Canada. we can certainly help get that set up, and we'll have a more Canadianized version of this. But just as a quick reference, we don't necessarily have all these different types of shower applications in the codes in our area. And the important thing to keep in mind is that there is a big difference between the threshold used for ADA and the threshold used for most provinces in Canada, including with some of the new updates. I think BC also adopted the lower threshold of 13 millimeters, which is standard in Ontario. Additionally, the shower space should not be less than 1,500 millimeters wide and 900 millimeters deep. So again, you can get the design guides based on various provinces and the ADA design guide as well, which will cover all this in great detail. But we'll certainly be sending out the copy of the presentation as well.
Yeah, and so following similar to the rolling type of shower, the alternate rolling follows, under the same requirements for, when you have a seat and when you don't have a seat. And again, if you are covered by a ANC region, then you have to add a extra 18 inches vertical grab bar to the front entry of the shower compartment, as we can see here, highlighted in the green circle. When it comes to controls and shower heights, so the difference between transfer and rolling showers is basically the height that you need to install your controls. So if in transfer shower type, the controls must be installed between 38 inches and 48 inches high. And for rolling showers, the controls should be installed above the grab bar and not more than 48 inches high. So the shower spray needs to have a hose that is at least 59 inches long. And it can be used both as a fixed shower head or as a handheld shower. And the shower spray unit shall have an on and off control with a non-positive shutoff. And of course, we have an exception when, in unmodern facilities, when always vandalism can be a problem, fixed shower head mounted at 48 inches above the shower floor may be used in lieu of a handheld shower head. For the grab bars, so as I mentioned, they should be installed in a horizontal position, 33 inches minimum and 36 inches maximum above the finished floor, measured to the top of the gripping surface.
And then in Ontario, I think it's slightly different. The opposite wall needs the L-shaped grab bar, and it's a 24-inch horizontal grab bar on the next wall. So some slight differences in the lengths.
Yeah, in a 30 by 40, not a regular L-shaped grab bar.
Yeah.
As I mentioned before, we have some different mounting requirements depending on the shower type that you are designing. But basically, the seat shall be a folding type and installed so as the top of the seat is 17 inches minimum and 19 inches maximum above the finished floor. In the transfer type, the seat shall extend to a point within 3 inches of the entry. In the standard rolling shower shall be installed on the side wall opposite to the control wall, and same, it should extend from the back wall to a point within 3 inches of the entry. And in alternate rolling shower, it shall be installed on the front wall opposite the back wall, and again extend from the adjacent side wall to a point within 3 inches of the shower entry. The shower seat can be either rectangular or L-shaped. as long as, you know, it respects the dimensions required. So if you're using a rectangular seat, the rear edge of a rectangular seat shall be 2.5 inches maximum. The front edge 15 inches minimum and 16 inches maximum from the seat wall. And the side edge of the seat shall be 1.5 inches from the adjacent wall. And the L-shaped seat, so the rear edge shall be 2.5 inches maximum. Again, the front edge 15 inches minimum and 16 inches maximum from the seat wall. And only some add portion because of the L shape. The rear edge of the L should be 1.5 inches maximum from the wall. The front edge should be 14 inches and minimum and 15 inches maximum. And the L shall be 22 to 23 maximum, 23 inches maximum from the main seat wall. So just some technical dimensions to keep in mind when you are choosing between, you know, a rectangular or a L-shaped seat.
Yeah, there's a lot of detail in the seats, and we'll add some here for Canada because there is a slight difference across the way. And we do have either a hinge seat or a fixed seat that need to be not less than 450 millimeters wide and 400 millimeters deep. And this does limit a lot of your selection with the extended depth from the wall, because it's not measured from the wall, it's measured to the actual seat itself. So that does limit some selection and is definitely something to keep in mind, pay some due diligence to when you're making your product selections.
Yeah, so for shower partitions, so shower partitions are not really, you know, recommended to install grab bars and seats on partitions. But when it's the case, you just have to keep in mind, you know, to leave appropriate backing, you know, in wall in order to support, you know, the required loads for your shower seat and your grab bars. Also the material, you always have, you know, to take in account materials there are resistance to, you know, moisture. So I don't know, a HPL would not be the best material to consider for a shower partition. But if you choose a compact laminate or any other, you know, water resistant material, you always have to keep in mind when designing a shower partition. Just some examples of, you know, the shower compartment design, which is compliant to the code. Any questions before I go to lavatories?
I haven't seen any additional questions come in for now, so I think we're good to go.
Okay, so for lavatories, ADA requires that at least one area in each restroom must have a lavatory. If the lavatory is installed in a countertop, you have to place it as close as possible to the front edge, so it is easily accessible. And also you have to install the lavatory with the front of the highest point of either, you know, the rim or counter surface, 34 inches maximum above the finished floor.
And then similarly in Canada, there's a little bit of difference in terms of the counts. You know, shall provide, I think, in a room containing 1 or 2 water closets or urinals, you have to provide at least 1 lavatory for each additional 2 water closets or urinals. So the counts are a little bit different, but importantly as well, the dimensions have always been very different than ADA underneath the lav. However, that is starting to unify, and we'll have an updated presentation probably specifically on this when the MBC unification across, and you know, with the new updates for BC, Alberta, and Ontario, we'll likely cover that in pretty good detail in the coming months.
Yeah, so continue on the ADA, the knee and toe clearance. So at least 27 inches minimum from the bottom of the apron to the finished floor. The knee clearance must extend at least 8 inches under the front edge of the lavatory or the countertop. And the protrusion of the overflow shall not be considered, when determining the knee clearance. And again, the knee clearance must extend to the toe height of 9 inches and parallel to the wall. And for the forward approach, you must provide a clear floor space of 30 inches wide by 48 inches deep minimum. The lavatory accessory, so mirror. Mirrors, when located above lavatories or countertop, they should be installed. The butt edge of the mirror should be not more than 40 inches maximum. And when they're not located above the countertop or the lavatory, the bottom edge of the reflecting surface can be installed 35 inches maximum. And we have the option, a very common option for barrier-free bathrooms of using, the angled mirror. They are not really required, but they are recommended whenever you can install a angled mirror. It's better for the accessibility. So just some more examples of, accessible, compliant countertops. Talking about accessories. So to allow user reach range, the operable parts of accessories should be located no more than 48 inches above the finished floor. If there is an obstruction such as counters, depending, of course, of how deep is the obstruction, the accessories may be located between 44 inches and 48 inches maximum above the finished floor. And the operable parts of any accessory should not be lower than 15 inches too. The ANC limits the operable parts to be no lower than 18 inches. When placing your accessories, always remember, to account for side and forward approach to the product. And if the case of, having an obstruction, if it is the case of having an obstruction, the accessories should be located as per the table shown here. So stating the maximum and reach, depth, and height. So deck-mounted soap dispensers and lever handle faucets should be installed far enough apart, to avoid interference with their operations. And although ADA requires only the 44 inches, the mounting height of the soap dispenser of 44 inches above the finished floor, the ANC also requires that your soap dispenser should be installed maximum of 11 inches from the front edge of the countertop. If it's longer than this distance, then you should consider, installing a extender or anything, to ease the access to the soap dispenser. Paper towel dispensers, waste receptacles, and hand dryers. So they should be located in an area that is accessible, for people using a wheelchair, preferably adjacent to the accessible lavatory. When you have a single hand dryer installed, it is recommended that, the operable part be located at no more than 44 inches above the finished floor. And when you have 2 or more hand dryers, you can have only one mounted on the 44 inches high from the finished floor, and the others can be at 48 inches above the finished floor.
So a question coming in from the chat, and it relates to both this hand dryer section as well as the other accessories. They're asking whether or not there's a junior height in the code, I guess tied to ADA. And correct me if I'm wrong, from my understanding, this would tie into kind of those additional options. So you would have an additional piece of equipment that you could install for a junior height. This would be most typically done in, say, an elementary school type application, daycare, where you have a predominant access by children. There are recommended heights for junior height. It's not a specific standard, except for a couple of municipal standards down at like a city level. So that's kind of the long answer. The short answer is make sure you're always double checking with your AHJ. They always, the authority having just jurisdiction always has jurisdiction is the line they tell me all the time. But you would still have your ADA and then a additional piece of equipment for your particular other junior height equipment.
Yeah, I would say this is the correct answer. Plus, this will also fall, we're trying to cover not only a person in a wheelchair, but also a person of short stature. So I think that falls, includes a child, a junior height as well. So it should embrace both.
That'd be, we ran a similar presentation, a bit of a slightly different topic, but it was on going, the above and beyond ADA that we covered back in September, where we had the Presslet team talking about the mobile, vertical and horizontal adjusted grab bars and where you can provide additional support. I think the best answer to that is, as you said, the ADA is your standard, doesn't stop you from going above and beyond, especially if you do want to, say, differentiate yourself as a more, approachable environment. One of the best interviews in that presentation back in September was the recording of the person saying, if it's kind of if you build it, they will come. If it's not built to an acceptable guideline for some of them, then you're not going to see those people in those areas. But when it's built to those and accommodating different people, all of a sudden you start seeing them in the location. So certainly above and beyond ADA is a great concept as well.
Yeah, and the last part of the accessories is regarding the coat hooks and shelves. So they all should be located, in the reach range that I already showed you, which you can be more detailed in the section 308 of the ADA code. But shelves should be located 40 inches minimum and 48 inches maximum above the finished floor. ADA doesn't really state about, how much they can protrude from the wall, different from what we are, used to here in Canada, that we have some limitation for the coat hook on 50 millimeters. And the shelves, not being protruding more than 4 inches off the wall. So again, slight differences between codes. But yeah, it's here you have to keep in mind only more about the height requirements. Some examples of accessories mounted in compliant heights. And talking about toilets and urinals. So the standard stall, they should be a minimum, should have a minimum depth of 56 inches. And they should have a wall-mounted water closets. If the depth is at least, you increase at least 3 inches, then you can use a floor-mounted toilet. and some arrangements shown for standard toilet stalls may be reversed to allow either a left or right-hand approach. The best practice dictates an outward opening hinge door, of course, to ensure accessible path of travel. So always for the accessible stall, make sure to use a outward door. The minimum width of the stall is 60 inches. The center line of the water closet should be 18 inches from the side wall. And a grab bar always should be installed, a horizontal grab bar at least 36 inches long, should be located behind the water closet, and the ending not less than 6 inches from the inside corner of the stall. And another grab bar should be mounted adjacent to the water closet on the side wall and extend no more than 12 inches from the back wall to at least 54 inches from the back wall. A and C requires a second grab bar on the side wall. There's a minimum of 18 inches perpendicular from the horizontal grab bar. So different from what we have here in Canada, the L-shaped grab bar. Yeah, some differences between codes. The water closet accessories, again, the operable parts should be not more than 48 inches. The toilet paper dispenser should be 7 inches minimum and 9 inches maximum in front of the water closet. And the outlet for the dispenser should be 15 inches minimum and 40 inches maximum above the finished floor. And as we also have here in the code, to operate these accessories, it should not require tight grasping, pinching, or twisting of the wrist. And as I mentioned before, A and C requires that the minimum height of accessories should be 18 inches of the finished floor. So urinals, they should have a depth of at least 13.5 inches to be considered ADA compliant. And this measure should be, from the back of the urinal to the front edge of the base. The flush valve, there is operative, needs to be mounted at either a minimum height of 48 inches above the floor, or 44 inches above the floor, if the urinal can create 20 inches of reach.
And then in Canada here, we have similar height requirements on a manual flush valve. There's some specifics that go into how tall it can be above finished floor. And then we have additional specifics on the grab bar requirements, which are not as dictated in the ADA. So in Canada, it's required to have installed on each side a vertically mounted grab bar, not less than 600 millimeters long. And then there's also additional height requirements on the urinal itself, where the perch of the urinal has a specific height requirement above finished floor as well.
Yeah, moving to the last part of the presentation, so the lockers. So the lockers per ADA and ANC, you should have at least 5% of all lockers meeting accessibility standards. And of course, to expand on this, for each type selected, whether a full, half, quarter, at least one unit must be fully accessible.
And then some higher accessibility guidelines. Again, depending on municipality, you do see some of these percentages change. So for example, the Toronto Accessibility Design Guidelines, they require a minimum of 20% units be accessible to the nearest whole unit rounding up. So double check again your AHJ, any sort of local design guidelines that may go above and beyond what these call for.
Yeah, when talking more about your clearance requirements and your height requirements for access, you should take in consideration first the locker latch height. So ADA lockers, can be installed throughout. The maximum latch height for a accessible locker can be no more than 48 inches and minimum height of 14 inches. I know we have some differences here in Ontario. I guess it's a little bit lower and higher than that. So we have a higher range.
Yeah, the millwork hardware would need to be between 33 inches or 860 millimeters to 41 inches or 1050 millimeters.
Yeah, the locker door hardware. So by ADA standards, they shall have a shape that is, easy to grasp with one hand only and does not require tight grasping, tight pinching, or twisting of the wrist to operate. And yeah, we have so many options available to you in regards to the type of hardware, but however, not all are necessarily accessible. So keep in mind is the locker hardware.
And beyond locker hardware, there's also, just chiming in with another kind of unique piece, there's some differences on the actual aesthetics as well. For example, again, TADG, they require that they should have a color brightness contrast from the adjacent surfaces so that a person with low vision can easily find them as well. So again, there's ways to kind of go above and beyond.
And we also have some other options to choose from. So we have some, automatic lock-in systems. So can also be an option, and while also complying with ADA. The locker material selection, as well as I mentioned, the shower install requirement, you should always consider a product that is, both cost effective and durable. So we do have some options to show you. So for durability, locker rooms, they are heavily abused. So there is always options, that can take high moisture, and that is also prone to vandalism. So if you select the right material, you can ensure that your design intent will survive, all of these abuses. So we have materials from stainless steel to painted metal. In this table, you can see, the cost, the index cost of each material. And of course, the more costier, you will see probably it is a, a more durable product, so stainless steel can take wet, anything. While phenolic is, as resistant as stainless steel, and you have more options. So you have more color options. You can still take on, high traffic. And it also, you have some other options for phenolic that can be, bacteria resistant. And you have, as I mentioned, a more attractive design. All the options through painted metal, which is the, lowest, the cheapest option. But, if you think of the high maintenance that you have along the way, and also that, it's not really the perfect material to a wet environment. So some considerations to think of when you are choosing the material for your locker or your shower compartment. And last part, benches. So, well, accessible benches, they are required, throughout your locker room. They must have a clear floor space, surrounding the bench, so your user can transition, in a wheelchair, from the wheelchair to the bench. Again, if the bench is located in a wet area, you should always consider the material that you'll be specifying. So the material should be slip resistant and, designed to not to accumulate water. So the seats, they should have a minimum of 20 inches to a maximum of 24 inches in depth and 42 inches in length. The seat height should be a minimum of 17 inches to a maximum of 19 inches above the finished floor. If your bench is not located next to a wall, then you have to provide a back support that is 42 inches in length and extends from a point of 2 inches maximum above the seat surface to a point 18 inches minimum above the bench. They must be strong enough to support a load of 250 pounds. So yeah, always think of the material if it is complying to the support needed.
Yeah, I guess that'd be why the location matters so significantly in these, right? Like you're going to see most accessible benches are going to be up against the wall for cost savings, but also to provide a front or side access that's going to comply.
Yeah, so very important to mention the accessible approach. So you have to provide an area, for transfer, and this area should not be less than 30 inches by 48 inches. And also the clearance between, bench and lockers. So again, you should have a clear path of travel. So ADA recommends a clearance of 60 inches. And ANC recommends a clearance of 67 inches. So slightly larger diameter for your clearance. And just some more examples of, compliant lockers with the right ledge height, with opening, with no benches obstructing the path of travel. So, and again, coming back to the first slide. So now after all we've been through, do you think there's still something wrong with the design, or should we, always have some other recommendations, other design too?
Now I've got all sorts of feedback. So there's some clear improvements that can be made. Even you were saying, the shower areas themselves, like we don't want to have things mounted on the partitions, right? So that's a big aspect. And we can obviously have these as your roll-in type that you mentioned, but that's going to be sometimes harder to allocate and locate all your different accessories that are required.
Yeah.
So I know that's a lot of detail that we went over there, but I appreciate everyone following along with us. As I mentioned, we'll certainly be having a copy of the presentation sent out, and we do have some design guidelines that are available on our spec tool system. So I guess I'll take over the presentation real quick here. Do you want to stop sharing for a second? I guess before you do, for any further questions, or if you want a copy of this presentation for your office, if you want to have a Ontario or regional specific version, certainly we can get that set up for your regional offices, whether you are in the US or in Canada. And Nat, you can keep an eye on the questions here as I take over, showing how people can find some of that information I've been referencing. So again, if this is your first time joining us, thank you for giving us a chance. Hopefully you learned a lot so far in the presentation. I saw a couple of people saying that they took a lot out of this, so you did a great job, Nat. If this is your first time, ATS Spec is basically a product selection tool that has a number of different manufacturers that are all paying to be on our system, so that we can provide a higher end and customizable product selection process, as well as spec output, so you can get a about 10 different formats of download formats that are all available for free, essentially paid for by the manufacturers to be on our service. Before, it's all login based, so you log in with your account can share projects across different firms. But before you even log in, you can go to this AT Architects and Engineers page, and you can go to our Learning Hub, and you'll be able to access the previous recordings that I mentioned, tutorial videos on navigating around the spec tool, as well as our ATS knowledge base, which does have a variety of those design guides that I mentioned. So you can go into our template field if you are working on a new project in a variety of different applications. You can get recommendations based on this, which are going to include various, there might be a shower area in the independent living design guide and a different type of shower area in, say, a multifamily or our recreational facility design guide. And the ATS webinars are all located here, where you can either find this presentation if there's something that you want to come back to, or you'll be able to find, if you want to go find that press slip presentation I mentioned, you'll be able to find it on our site here. We are pumping out about I'd say about 3.5 ATS universities a month. Sometimes we do 4, sometimes we do 3. So there's a lot of recordings, there's a lot of great information in there. Once you've logged in, that same information can be accessed here from our ATS Spec Talks blog. But you also have a toolbar here on the left that helps you navigate around the site. You'll see it's all associated with your specific account. And again, I'm within the ATS firm, so I can share a project with Natalia, or if I'm working on a project with my rep down in California, we can also share across borders. So that works seamlessly and integrates well. Different types of ways that you can select these products. In essence, you start with choosing what type of bucket you want to add. We have our quick spec bucket, which is the fastest, quickest way to a product selection. We could put in grab bar and just immediately start selecting our grab bars. Now, this is not going to add any of our rule engine, but you can see I can go into my grab bar section here at the top. We were talking about all those different L-shaped grab bars. I can filter into the different types that I want. I can filter by dimensions. I can filter by manufacturer if we have multiple manufacturers on here. And then once I find the product I want, I can either verify it by reading the features here, or I can verify it by using the integrated manufacturer spec sheet. So all of our manufacturer spec sheets are integrated into the spec tool. And you can confirm whether, everything from whether this is the right grab bar to is this the right soap dispenser to, lockers to more mechanical products like your pumps, if you want to see pump curves or hot water heater recovery systems. All those manufacturer products are integrated into the system with the spec sheets here to download. And then you can configure it if there's any configuration options. So I can make sure I get that peen gripping surface. I can get my 30-inch long grab bar, and then I can add this product in. Now, again, the first bucket, our quick spec bucket, has no rule engine applied. Whereas if you create a project, so if I go back to that same dashboard and hit start now for the project, I have to put in location data. When I put in location data, I get the rules engine. So, I mentioned we're updating our Alberta and British Columbia building codes. Those will have different products that are now available compared to the no rule engine. If they're in the US, there's different codes and standards for New York, where there's a specific, mounting height on mirrors that's a little bit different. The P-trap's a little bit different. You may have the Texas accessibility guidelines, or you may be in California where they have different flow rate restrictions. By entering your location, you will get the rules engine that's associated with that region. Now, I always assume that I'm going to be a little bit behind, and we are again today. So I've already set up an accessible locker room. You can see I've got one of that Z-tier locker that we discussed with our HASP block that complies with the code. appropriate bench. But if I wanted to redo this, maybe make some changes to this locker, I could hit the edit button. If I want to add a second option, I can hit the plus button. And you can see, we have a ton of different product on here. And what you like is going to be more associated with your role. If you're the architect, you may not care about the pumps that we have on the system. And if you're the engineer, you may not be selecting grab bars every time. So you can go through and pin your favorites. So you can see I pinned some of the different products that we talked about today. This is going to bring them all up to the top, and then I don't have to repin it anymore. But again, I can search for anything I want as well. So we could search for locker and get into our locker unit. And then I could toggle my barrier-free code. I can refine based on different applications. All my options are here though, so I'm going to go into our classic series. Let's do a simple 2-tier. You can see I can then either select the most popular as well, or I could configure all these different options, including the different finish options. We are working on refreshing this, so you'll have more of a swatch style. You'll be able to look at the different color options and select based on swatch as well. But for now, just for speed and efficiency, I'm going to hit the most popular. We got our walnut with a 71-inch tall, 12-inch wide, pretty standard locker. I'm going to add that to my selection. And then as with all of the ATS selections, we try to recommend all the appropriate product that come with this. So not just do you need a locker, but you also need a lock. Not just you need a urinal, but you need a flush valve, your grab bars, everything else that goes with it. I can select my HASS block and add that into the system. And I'll hit complete. Now, one thing I wanted to show, I've gone through, we talked about templates a little bit. The template, again, is going to have different recommendations based on the application. And you'll see that there's various product groups within a application. So we've got a budget conscious selection for a recreational facility, more renovation type, hardwired, all the architectural accessories, all your drainage items, mechanical equipment in a mechanical room, fire protection, pipes and fittings, locker room, all of these are here. So if I wanted to, I've gone through selecting my locker, but I need a quick accessories package. Maybe my meeting's coming up in a few minutes. And, I've got a 130 and I just want to go through and add a basic accessories package. This is going to be fairly tried, tested, and true, at least for the starting point of a discussion. We have a lot of options in here. So you'd want to then refine this down. As you have that discussion with your team of, do I want the angled mirror or just a straight vertical one? You could then go through and select which ones you want. So you can take all of it, you can take some of it. I'm going to hit copy to and put this into my project. So we had started our locker room project. And I can add this to a new product group or the product group that I set up for this bucket already. And hit copy. Now this would work the same if you have worked with Natalia or myself or any of our team to help get your firm's masters on the spec tool. If you work with us, we can help build your masters either based on our templates. If you're doing a lot of recreational facilities, we could help you out in either taking our template or a recently finished project to then build as your own internal master. And then you can see from here, we've got a recent condo amenity space master. I could just go copy to and copy the entire projects, or I could copy different product groups along the way. I'll tease a new feature update that we're working on, which is going to allow you from your project page like this, add and kind of do a drag drop type add of either an entire product group or your favorite products to add from a master into a project. So there's even more innovation and efficiency coming from our masters in the future. I know our design team, Justin, has been working on and getting that going. In fact, I think Justin's talking about some of the recently finished features in an upcoming presentation in just a couple of weeks. So if you want to learn more about what ATS has been working on, feel free to jump on that webinar that we'll have in a few weeks as well. So just to finish off, show you what I did there, selecting all, using this button to select all the products within a group. I could select all three of these products. If I don't need the bench and I just want the two lockers, I can deselect that. Or if I want every fixture across all different product groups here, I can do that as well. So then once that's done, I'll hit download, and I could download this in a CSI 3-part spec, which is going to match the 3-part spec standard. I can add the Revit files for every product in the project. I can have the manufacturer spec sheet catalog, although that's a fairly heavy file. They call it this ATS version of a long spec, and ATS recommended short spec. So not following that same 3-part standard. These are more our innovations. A fixture schedule, which is going to have different tabs for each application type. So, accessories have a different schedule than drainage. Is a simple way to explain it. Product brochures, so you can get just kind of a refined version of what you're looking at. Product submittals, which is going to combine multiple manufacturers onto one page. You can download all these documents all at once, and either for the entire package or just the couple of products that you've selected. Now, again, I'm running late and I've already ran a little long. So I'll show you when I pre-downloaded this, what this looks like. You can see I've got my lockers, I've got my hardwired fixtures that we showed, and then my accessories submittal in the CSI Revit schedule and submittal. And our submittal, schedules in Excel come in like this. So you can see we've got our accessories schedule and then a lockers schedule. Now everything that we put together is open and editable. So you can either take all of this, put it directly onto your drawings. You can edit the selection if you don't want this whole description. If you want to change the description, whatever you want. We have our written spec here as well. This is that CSI format. Again, open and editable. So if you want to add in alternates, if you want to just take, say, the product portion, you can highlight, copy, paste, and put that into your own written documentation. We've got the other our PDFs as well. So this is that submittal package that I mentioned. Again, combining multiple manufacturers onto one page, giving you installation details, all the different options that are available for a product. Nice clean submittal format so that you can, this is great if you're on an early part of your design discussion, or if you're kind of finalizing to say, yes, we've decided we're going with floor mount. If you're having conversation of floor mounted versus wall mounted, this is going to fit into that part of your design process really nicely. So that is the quick version as best I can. For those of you that stayed with us, I really appreciate you giving us 10 minutes of extra time. I recognize we went over, but hopefully that was valuable for you. If you would like a deeper dive into the spec tool, please feel free to reach out to us. My entire team has a book a demo available where you can just click in, get 15-30 minutes with us at any point in time. We can set up and do firm specific lunch and learns on either the spec tool as a whole or any of the barrier-free type presentations that we discussed today. Was there any final questions that came in while I was doing the spec tool demo there? Perfect. Well, thank you very much, Natalia. You did a fantastic job presenting a very detailed and heavy topic. Thank you to those that stayed with us. I recognize that these code presentations can be a lot of details and numbers, which is hard in a webinar. So thank you for spending the time with us, and hopefully you took something out of it. And again, if you would like any sort of follow-up questions, please feel free to reach out to Natalia at atspec.com or myself, Zach at atspec.com. We'll have another ATS University next week and a couple more for the month. If you are in CMPX, or if you're going flying into Toronto for the CMPX show later on this month, we'll be there and we can shake hands and say hi in person. Thank you so much and have a great rest of the day. Bye for now, all.
Thank you. Take care.